Did Obama just shut down a sitting president with a single sentence on live TV? A moment so calm, yet so devastating, it felt like the entire nation froze mid-breath. For a full second, millions of Americans just stared at their screens, stunned, as if the air had been pulled straight out of the room. No one expected the night to unfold like this, not with this kind of quiet force, not with two men, two legacies, two very different Americas sitting across from each other under the cold studio lights of Washington. Half the country leaned in, hearts thudding with anticipation. The other half argued loudly in living rooms, diners, break rooms, from the dusty highways of Arizona to the crowded streets of New York City. It wasn't just political chatter anymore. It felt like history tightening its grip around the moment. So when the White House announced a joint televised conversation on national unity, President Trump and Barack Obama together on the same stage, people didn't just tune in, they stopped. They dropped whatever was in their hands, sank into couches and chairs, and stared as if the world had narrowed to a single broadcast. The opening shot was wide and cinematic. Obama sat upright, relaxed but composed, shoulders lowered, hands folded with the kind of steady confidence that made people breathe easier. He looked like a man who wasn't trying to win anything. He was simply ready to speak truth with the calm weight of experience. Across from him, Trump leaned forward, fingers tapping anxiously against the desk, eyes darting toward the teleprompter he so often ignored. His energy crackled impatient, restless, like he was already bracing for a fight. And then the silence settled between them, a heavy, electric stillness, the kind that makes you feel something big is about to happen.
Tonight I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success.
The temperature difference between them was so sharp it almost felt physical. Obama radiated this cool, steady calm like a man carved from still water, while Trump burned with restless heat, the kind that makes a room feel smaller, tighter, ready to snap. You could almost feel it through the screen. One man cold and controlled, the other bracing like he was already mid-swing. Tonight we are here to discuss unity, leadership, and the direction of our nation, the moderator began, her voice smooth, careful, trying to keep the room grounded. But Trump didn't even let her land the sentence. He lurched forward, cutting her off with a sharp, impatient breath. Well, unity would be a lot easier if the previous administration didn't leave us with a disaster. The words dropped like a slap. A few audience members sucked in a breath. Social feeds lit up instantly. Even through the camera, you could sense the tension coil, Trump's frustration simmering, Obama's quiet composure holding steady like stone. The contrast wasn't subtle. It was a storm hitting a still lake. And the nation watched, waiting for what came next.
Obama got a prize. He didn't even know what he got. He got elected, and they gave it to Obama for doing absolutely nothing but destroying our country. No, he was not a good president. The worst president was Sleepy Joe Biden, but Obama was not a good president.
He snapped, pointing casually toward Obama without even bothering to look at him. No smile, no hesitation, just a sharp, dismissive jab meant to land like a punch. The studio air tightened. Obama didn't respond right away. He simply watched Trump, eyes steady, studying him the way someone watches a pitcher wind up, patient, silent, reading every twitch and every tightening muscle. The pause lasted less than a second, but it stretched across the entire country like a wire pulled too tight. People leaned closer to their screens without even realizing it. A woman in Chicago muttered under her breath, "Say something, please." A truck driver in Amarillo reached out and turned up the radio, his hand trembling a little. Living rooms, bars, and break rooms fell into a strange hush. The moment felt fragile, like even breathing too loudly might shatter it. Obama finally inhaled slow, steady.
the kind of breath a man takes right before he says something that matters. "Donald," he began, his voice low, calm, almost too calm, the kind of calm that carries weight, the kind that makes people sit up straighter. "Our job, yours now more than mine, is to build, not blame." The sentence rolled out like a quiet wave, and the first ripple hit the audience. Not applause, not gasps, something different, something sharper. Attention, pure, focused attention. Every head lifted, every eye locked in. It was as if the whole nation leaned forward at once, waiting for the aftershock.
I explained that I never thought Donald Trump would embrace my vision or continue my policies, but I did hope, for the sake of the country, that he might show some interest in taking the job seriously.
Trump fired back instantly, his words snapping through the air like a whip. "I build more in a week than you did in 8 years, he boasted, rattling off executive actions, appointments, economic claims, some accurate, some exaggerated, some seemingly pulled out of thin air. His tone was sharp, insistent, demanding attention, leaving no room for pause or reflection. Obama listened, his head tilted slightly, fingers pressed together lightly, almost as if he were counting time in silence instead of speaking. His calm composure was a stark contrast, a measured stillness that somehow made every word Trump threw out feel smaller. Across America, the reactions were varied, but unanimous in intensity. A retired Marine in Raleigh muttered quietly under his breath, weighing the claims with a lifetime of experience. A high school teacher in Salt Lake City set her phone down, leaning forward, eyes narrowing, absorbing every syllable. A bar in Houston turned up the volume, the room contracting as everyone strained to catch each nuance. Even casual scrollers on TikTok paused mid-swipe, their attention caught by the unexpected weight of the exchange. When Obama finally spoke, he didn't rise to the bait. He didn't match the volume. He lowered it, letting gravity carry his words. "Donald," he began, voice steady, resonant, calm. "A president isn't measured by how loud he speaks, but by how much good he leaves behind." The sentence landed like a stone dropped into a still pond. Trump blinked, momentarily caught off guard. The tone of the room had shifted. Studio lights seemed brighter, sharper. Every subtle movement, the tilt of a head, a sip of water, a quiet pause, became charged with meaning. Cameras lingered, capturing micro-expressions, small shifts that spoke louder than any grand gesture. No one blinked. No one dared look away. No one changed the channel. The suspense wasn't manufactured through theatrics. It existed in the contrast itself. Two men forged by history in diametrically opposed ways, sitting across from each other. One thrived on chaos, the roar of unpredictability, the rush of instant reaction. The other thrived on control, patience, letting the moment come to him, shaping it without force. One lunged, one waited. One chased applause, one commanded attention quietly. And America sat there, collectively holding its breath, witnessing the tension, the difference, the unspoken lesson between volume and substance, between impulse and restraint, between the fleeting and the lasting. Every viewer, from living rooms to diners, from offices to small kitchens, felt it. The slow, undeniable pull of history moving right before their eyes.
And Donald Trump at a rally just started making up stories about the Biden administration withholding aid from Republican areas and siphoning off aid to give to undocumented immigrants. Just made the stuff up.
Even the moderator looked momentarily stunned, as if she wanted to set her cards and notes down, step back from her role, and simply watch the two men speak to each other without interruption. No teleprompter guiding the conversation, no advisors whispering in their ears, no filter to soften the edges of what they were about to say. For a heartbeat,
The usual structures of a televised debate vanished entirely, leaving only the raw, unguarded exchange of two very different leaders in a room charged with history, power, and expectation. It was a silence pregnant with tension, heavy with anticipation, yet delicate enough that even a single misstep might shatter it. It felt as if the country itself had been compressed, condensed, distilled, down to two voices. Each word carried decades of resentment, ambition, and frustration, layered with the weight of 330 million lives watching, listening, feeling. Every syllable seemed to stretch across state lines, across cities, towns, rural landscapes, coastlines, and plains. Every household, every office, every diner, every classroom was suspended, caught in that singular moment where history seemed to slow its pulse to match the rhythm of the conversation. Viewers didn't need commentary or explanation to grasp the magnitude of what was happening. They felt it deep in their bones. Something was shifting, subtle but undeniable, moving through the air like an electric current. It touched everyone tuned in, no matter where they were sitting or what they were doing. The air was heavy with unspoken understanding, tension, and a strange reverence for what they were witnessing. It was alive, fragile, tense, a moment that seemed to expand the very space of the studio, filling it with weight and resonance. Every breath taken, every tiny movement of the hands, the shift of an eyebrow, a slight lean forward, carried meaning far greater than the surface words could convey. Obama, sitting with his signature composure, radiated calm authority. He didn't need to raise his voice or lean in aggressively. He didn't need to gesture or punctuate. His quiet presence alone seemed to command attention. Every tilt of his head, the subtle interlacing of his fingers, the slow, deliberate inhale before speaking, these small acts drew the eyes of millions, made hearts beat a little faster, made minds lean in. His calm was like a measured river, steady and unyielding, contrasting sharply with the raw, crackling energy Trump exuded across the desk. Trump, restless, leaned forward, fingers drumming intermittently on the desk, eyes flicking between Obama and the teleprompter, searching for leverage, for a moment to reclaim control, for the opening to dominate the conversation. Every syllable he spoke was laced with intensity, confidence, bravado, some of it accurate, some stretched, some seemingly conjured from nowhere, but all intended to leave an impression. And yet, even in his assertive energy, there was a subtle falter when faced with the quiet authority opposite him. Across America, the reactions were varied, yet everyone felt the same magnetic pull of the moment. A retired Marine in Raleigh gritted his teeth, muttering softly under his breath, absorbing the exchange through the lens of decades of service and experience. In Salt Lake City, a high school teacher set her phone down and leaned forward, unable to tear her gaze from the screen, feeling the words sink into her in ways that transcended politics. A bar in Houston buzzed with tension, glasses halfway to mouths, conversations halted mid-sentence, eyes locked on the screens as though the room itself were holding its breath. Even the habitual scrollers on TikTok paused, fingers frozen mid-swipe, caught by the gravity of what they were witnessing. The contrast between the two men was magnetic, almost painful in its clarity. One thrived in chaos, impulsive, fiery, seeking instant reaction, riding on the energy of disruption. The other thrived in patience, in control, in the quiet shaping of a moment that would outlast the noise. One lunged for impact. The other waited, letting the impact come to him, letting the moment breathe before he touched it with words. The tension between them was a living thing, stretching across the desk, across the studio, across screens and airwaves, pulling everyone into its orbit. When Obama finally spoke, he didn't need volume. He lowered his voice, letting each word land with weight and precision. "Donald," he said, calm and measured, "a president isn't measured by how loud he speaks, but by how much good he leaves behind." The sentence was simple, almost understated, but it reverberated with force. It wasn't a clash. It was a strike of clarity, a quiet assertion that carried further than any raised voice ever could. The room shifted. Studio lights seemed to sharpen. Every camera angle, every subtle expression, every micro gesture became charged with meaning.